I'm Evelyn Fenley and my project is called Algorithm. So Algorithm is a not-for-profit and it's in the community beneficial social enterprise category. Algorithm, the whole purpose of Algorithm and the thinking behind it is to help support parenting students here in NUI Galway, because parenting students obviously face extra pressures and stresses that, say, the average university student doesn't face. And how we're going to help them is through tutoring and skills seminars. I suppose the big question for you would be, why is this project needed? And I first came up with this idea last semester when I was working with the Galway Pregnancy Accommodation Services and SUAS Educational Development. And I saw that a lot of the women, the young women and girls who had children that we were working with, after they had given birth, a lot of times they found it quite a struggle to stay in education. And I just thought that there was something more that we could do for them. And when I looked into developing this more, I was quite shocked by the statistics that, even if you look at any of these, say 82% of parents in their late teens or 20s are going it alone without the support of, say, a partner or a spouse. And single parent families, they're only 16% of the population, but they're 54% of people living in poverty. And that's a huge thing. They're the majority of people living in poverty. So that alone, they need so much extra support, and it's absolutely essential that we support them. So what higher education will do for these families, obviously it would break the cycle of poverty and isolation and a greater earning potential. College graduates earn on average about 69% more than if you just leave school after your leaving cert. And this is so important for, obviously the parent, for their own fulfillment and to challenge them, but also it helps two generations because it secures a better future for their child as well. Who's the target market? Algorithm is open to all parenting students at NUI Galway, but from speaking with student services and the chaplaincy and also just looking at the trends for Galway and nationally, the typical user will be a female student, so a single mother in her early 20s with one toddler-aged child will be the typical user. The target market is approximately 210 parenting students here at NUI Galway. So how are we going to promote the project? Last month we had a marketing clinic here in NUIG. With a group of a marketing team for this project, and we came up with these ways to get the message out to the students, because that will be the success of this is riding on really having as big an uptake as possible from the service users, the parents. So these are all the ways, having an official launch, using the press, both the student newspaper here, the college radio, local press, the class rep system, all those structures that are already in place, to utilise those to really get as many people on board to make this project a success. I suppose these are the big reasons why we should fund Algorithm, why it's so good. So the benefits to parents, I suppose, like I spoke earlier, the higher earning potential, it's a social outlet as well coming into college, and also to have, we've discussed, say the tutoring is also a one-on-one, to break that kind of feeling of isolation they may feel or not being included. It helps parents secure both a better future for themselves and their children. And then for the child, better standard of living, it breaks the cycle of poverty, and it also encourages children then to seek education themselves, which is really important. And to the college, this is the first project of its kind in Ireland, so it's a USP or unique selling point for the college when they're putting that in their prospectus. They can say, this is the first kind, and I think that will encourage, it'll be an incentive for people to come here and to help recruit students. And I suppose the big thing is by making students' lives a little bit easier, hopefully they'll be more encouraged to stay here, and that would be, I suppose, the ideal. That's exactly what we want. So to wrap up, I suppose this whole project is about bringing positive outcomes to people who have a real need, who really do need the help. And it's a win-win situation for the college and for all involved, both the volunteers providing the tutoring, the service users, and for the college as well. The project will bring diversity by broadening the student base, which I think we can all agree is a really good thing to have our student base made up of as many people as possible. And it'll help the parents and students feel included and their self-worth. And we're helping 2 generations with this project at once. So I'll take your questions now if you have any.
Well, if you like, maybe I'll start. And first of all, I want to say it's a fantastic idea, and I think you're really helping, a minority group there, and the concept you have of the 2 generations, I think is very compelling. But just a question or two I had. You're primarily looking for volunteers to help you do this. So what are the challenges that you see with really implementing something of this scale and this importance with the volunteer?
From the volunteering aspect. Well, I think luckily in NUI Galway we have a real volunteering ethos here in the college, and that's what I found when I joined the college. It was almost expected that you would volunteer on something, and most of you will probably be, I'm sure, familiar with the Alive office and the work Lorraine Tansey's doing over there. And I think last year it was something like 70,000 hours NUIG students volunteered. So there is a really good volunteering ethos. But I suppose how we would put that, implement that, would be at the volunteering fair and those various events to compile a database of volunteers, and they would need to attend a training afternoon or whatever training session before they're let out. So that would be how that would be.
And I guess if I understand the concept, what you're hoping to use some of those volunteers to say give
the tutoring,
tutoring or help with the tutoring. Again, I suppose just a question, the challenge with that on a volunteer basis. Say I decide to volunteer and I'm happy to do a couple of hours now because I'm not that busy, but my exams are on Christmas. And how are you going to make sure you can actually sustain it through the whole college cycle?
Well, definitely, I suppose, say we had a target market of 210, I would think we'd need, say, 350, maybe 400 volunteers, and then they won't necessarily be volunteering every week, but they'll be matched up so that, if a volunteer does have another commitment or something and has to bow out for a time and come back, that someone else can be matched as well, who can fulfill the service users' need.
Can I just ask you something there?
Sure.
So the concept basically is peer-to-peer support.
Yeah.
And I agree with Helen. I think it's a great concept. I'm just wondering, as a suggestion, I presume when you're looking for the volunteers, you're open to all disciplines.
Yes.
But obviously, if the student is a medical student,
they'll be matched. Would be appropriately.
And taking up the point about the challenge of getting volunteers, and there is a challenge, perhaps not initially identifying volunteers, but in maintaining them. Maybe there is some way in which the university could come behind this. For example, particularly for people in, say, the teaching disciplines or something like that, or not necessarily just for that, but maybe through the education department of the university, that the tutors, the volunteer tutors, could get some recognition.
Yeah, that's a really good idea.
Maybe a certificate or something to say that in a period of time in my first year or second year or third year I participated in this. It's just another way of perhaps enhancing their CV from a volunteer perspective, something tangible.
I've already spoken to Lorraine Tansey, who's in charge of the volunteering programme here at NUI Galway, and this is going to be included in the Presidential Award for Volunteering. Okay. So that will be something they can put on their CV if they take part.
I do think you need to motivate volunteers.
I agree, definitely.
And have you thought about some of the practical aspects of this, like where, for example, would this tutoring take place?
Well, there's many tutorial rooms. I don't know if you're familiar with the James Hardiman and the Nursing Midwifery Library that any student can book. And there's about 10 or 15 of those available at any time. And then also classrooms on campus. It would be all on campus.
Okay. And obviously volunteers have to be screened in terms of suitability for one-on-one contact with potentially vulnerable people. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I definitely think Garda vetting would be something we'd need to.
And maybe even more than Garda vetting, maybe some sort of suitability. I mean, particularly if in the case of, say, single mums, probably in a vulnerable emotional state and so forth, that maybe you need to be more conscious of, one-on-one tutoring in that situation.
Oh, definitely, yeah. No, I'm very, yeah. Is there anything else?
The administration of it, who actually, that's a lot of it. It reminds me of the secondary, school where you have to look at timetabling. There's a lot of juggling and organisation there. Who it would be? Would that be done by volunteers as well?
You mean like matching up people?
Yeah.
Well, I would envisage that I have two of my good friends are on board with this, and hopefully add a few more and maybe have a committee or whatever you want to call it, and that we would be the people who'd organise that and be in constant contact with both the service user and the volunteer to make sure that everything's going smoothly and that everyone's happy with, I suppose, the services being provided. And that's how that would be done, by a team of us kind of working together.
Could it be done through Students' Union or any Student Society system or something like that? So it has some formal structure.
Yes, as you go forward, your year is going to get busier. There's a lot of hours to be organised.
Well, definitely, like we've been talking to student services, so I don't know if they'd want to contribute to that as well.
I think that would be, as someone who's been involved in managing volunteers over the years, when you professionalise management, you get much more out of the volunteers, because everybody has a life, so if you can put a structure in place that will automatically run as opposed to one or two or three key people having to carry the burden. And just out of curiosity, your main view on this, is it to recruit students or to retain students who encounter a situation when they're in college?
Retain primarily, but I think, like I said on the slide before last, definitely like this, when this is in the student guide and when people hear about this, I think it would, if you were a single parent and if you see that NUIG is the inclusive campus, that would definitely encourage you to come here.
And just out of curiosity, what percentage of single parent students drop out when their situation changes? Do you know, like on 210, say, like when it happens, like do half of them go away or do all of them drop out?
I saw, and I've gone through so many statistics now, they're all kind of blurring, but I think it was something like for women who have two children in their teens, 55% don't get past attain junior cert level and don't go any further. So it's like really important that they're supported all along, because for all the reasons of higher education, all those benefits for them and their children.
One last question. How would you actually spend the 15,000?
Well, I don't know if you were given my final submission, I had the costings in that.
That's the launch and that.
Yeah, and then also the ongoing costs. The funding would keep it going for a few years, which would be great to get this off the ground. For like a relatively small investment, it's going to have such a positive impact on the campus and on students here in NUIG.
Would you anticipate, having a website? I suppose I was quite struck by some of your skills seminars, because sometimes it's around those basic skills that just push people over the edge and they can't manage the money or the budgeting or if you're just a small child. Would you look at, I suppose it wasn't clear to me how you would develop the content for those kind of skills programs, and then if you like how you would make it, would you have a web page or some way of making it accessible or available?
Well, those would be facilitated by someone qualified in that field, like say a nutritionist or something. So that would be how some of the cost would be incurred through that. That would be more so talks, like actually a person coming and talking to the group of people and going through, everything to do with that topic and, questions and answers. So that's what that seminar would actually be, a person thing. It wouldn't be a web-based thing.
Yeah, just on that point, I think because it is a not-for-profit initiative, I think you could capture a lot of goodwill with people with certain skill sets, like you mentioned nutrition, you're opposite the hospital, pediatricians, accountants, from budgeting and household finances and things like that. So I think there's a lot of capacity here to tap into. Like it's a small, manageable group of people, it's very tangible, very measurable outcome. I think we could really generated a lot of positive support for it.
I think, Evan, one of the questions that I was going to ask was about the organisation, because it's a little bit more, having tried to organise tutorials in here, it's a little bit more complex than perhaps what may appear at first level. But I think a selling point for you, for the volunteers, for the tutors, is, it seems to me that the real way to learn your subject is to teach it. And it would seem to me to be a marvellous opportunity for people taking different courses here to actually tutor in those courses, because they then really, and it helps them, so it's a double whammy as far as so to me, there's a lot of articles these days about employees come ahead of customers in terms of priorities, etc. And I would see two customer groups here: your tutors and the people that the single moms, etc. that you have. I suppose the second thing that I had was continuity. You're the driver. You're I don't know what stage you are in medicine at the moment, but you'll be finishing sometime and you have other responsibilities. Who's going to continue it? How do you see it developing?
Well, I suppose I'm here for 5 more years, such is the nature of medicine, but being a 7-year course. But definitely would want to see it continue, and I suppose that core group that I have right now, hopefully one of those, and eventually maybe it would be amalgamated into student services as its own project, but under their direction.
Is the group that you're working with, are they representative across disciplines, or?
There's arts and medical and science in that group, Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. Well done.
How are you?
Good, thank you very much.
Hi, my name's Robert McComish. I've been gigging as a professional musician for the last 5 years, and I've just recently completed my Masters in Musicology, which I specialised in popular music and the history of the music industry.
My name is Mark James. I'm currently just finished my first year here in NUI, and I've previously studied popular music. I'm also a singer-songwriter, and I'm currently in the process of releasing my first EP. It was actually through the many difficulties that arose during this process that the idea for Beehive was born. And in fact, recently I've actually had to hire someone for a couple €100 to actually help me promote my music and book gigs. So Beehive really, at present this is really the only option available to musicians. They actually have to go and hire someone to help them promote their music and book gigs. So Beehive aims to empower all musicians with the knowledge and context so that they themselves can do their own bookings and promotion, saving them hundreds of €, educating themselves to the manners and how the industry actually works. And with the decline in music sales, we aim to facilitate the increasing need for musicians to perform their music live in order to make a living. So much the same way iTunes recognised a trend in downloads, that trend is now shifting again back towards live music. So we wish to be in place to facilitate that trend.
So the key features of Beehive would be that it will provide a complete listing of the music industry in Ireland. We will also have an on-site gig booking capability, as well as this throughout the site will provide educational tutorials to help musicians navigate their way through the music industry. So this will be the homepage of the site. So when somebody arrives at the site, they can set up a profile in a matter of seconds. They just enter their email and their password, and then they're ready to go. And they can start promoting their music straight away. So this is what the background of the band's page will look like. So once they've logged in, they can start uploading their image, adding contact details, and filling out which of the Beehive criteria that they meet already. As well as that, they can add in links to their social networking sites and add previous gigs and upcoming gigs to their gigging calendar. So once these criteria here, once they've been entered and the band then moves on to search through the site, that their searches will automatically be filtered so to meet the level that the band is at.
So yeah, as Rob said, all searches on Beehive will give priority to the results that best match both the search filters and the criteria the band have set. These initial results will provide basic location details, we can see here, and a percentage match relevant to the criteria. So the better matched you are, the higher up the search result will be. In addition, here we'll be hosting video tutorials explaining how musicians should apply to a venue and what that process is. So if a band here clicks on Whelan's, they'll be brought to Whelan's public profile page. And here they'll be able to see what criteria they actually do match, what criteria Whelan's specify and wish for them to match. There'll be a picture or an image of the venue, a description talking about the venue. They'll provide all the backline, or they'll give details of what backline they provide in the venue, so that's like guitars, amps, whatever Whelan's actually provide. Here there's a gig booking system. This is kind of integral to the whole idea. So if Whelan's have a gig that's free, or a slot that's free, the band just comes here, they click on the slot, and when they click on the slot they're given details of what that actual gig is. So it'll provide details as to what perks have been offered, what payments, and if they want to then make the submission, they simply click and make the submission. In addition, we have a comments box down here, so any users throughout the site can leave a review and comment on any public profile, as well as being able to provide feedback to us so that we can keep all information relevant, accurate and up to date.
So if a band sends in an application through the system, any venue that's using the site, they'll get a list of all the bands that apply for a certain date, and the bands will be also ranked according to how much of the criteria they meet. So by doing this, we hope to rid the venue of the hassle of having to go through, a lot of different emails from different sources and having to look up websites and, go all over the place to find out information. Instead, they'll just be able to go to the band's page, and here they'll be able to read a short bio of the band, see what criteria they meet, look at their gigging history, look at where they plan to gig in the future. On top of this, we hope to to bring on all the music industry. So if somebody's a videographer or a photographer or a music shop or a record label, they can all come on board and create a Beehive profile. So say if a band has booked a gig in Whelan's, for example, and they're from Galway and they want to get radio play when they go to Dublin, they'll be able to use the same Beehive criteria will filter their searches when they look for radio stations in Dublin. So if we're going to radio results.
So here again we have a prioritised listing, and this listing is showing which results best match unsigned music. So if you're an unsigned band and you're looking for a radio show that might actually play your music, at present this is a very complicated process. It's really hard to do. So here we have a concise list. You just click on whatever and you get more details. And here as well we have another video tutorial, and it goes through the process. And we actually have an edited version of this video that we made for the presentation today. We'll just play that for you.
Hey, and welcome along to this Beehive tutorial. My name is Stephen Battle, and over the next 2 minutes I'm going to be talking to you about how you can potentially get your band's music airplay on the radio. The criteria for getting your music played on the radio is usually a mastered CD. What you should do basically is spend the extra money and get your music mastered. What you need to remember is that when you're starting off, you should start local. Local stations are more likely to play local acts. Along with the hard copy, the mastered CD, and your press release, you should have an electronic press kit as well. That's basically it. 3 or 4 quick steps to getting your stuff on the radio.
So this is obviously an edited version, but throughout the site there will be tutorials such as this relative to everything in the industry that a musician really wants to know. So now that we've covered the basic functionality of this site, I'd just like to talk. In addition, we have a community forum where anyone using the site can come on, get together, talk about any issues within the industry or the site itself. And also we have an up-to-the-minute news feed, so me and Rob will, almost like a blog, we'll provide information relative to grants, funding, competitions, any applications or internet functionality that might benefit musicians. That's pretty much the functionality, I think.
Beehive is going to provide essential services to musicians and everybody in the industry. So our aim is to raise the standard of professionalism among musicians and to increase their cultural output. By creating this dynamic community online, we hope to bring together the creative minds in Ireland and to encourage collaboration. We hope that this project will help to build on and to add more value to one of Ireland's most successful and sustained resources, its music. So because of our minimal overheads, we hope that in year 2 our income from advertising and from charging a fee on the bookings will have exceeded all initial investment. And as we outlined in our business plan, in year 3 we hope to have taken on an extra member of staff, be paying ourselves both, and to generate a profit of in excess of €40,000.
Yeah, so in order to be successful, Beehive must be a top-class service, incorporating aspects of social media, facilitating user feedback, and powered by an innovative and intuitive user interface. Our own personal investment will not see this realised. However, with your additional investment of €15,000, we'll be able to take Beehive from its current conceptual state to an actual working model and a cultural, social, online platform for Ireland's music industry. And I'd just like to finish with saying that someone will build a site definitely at some stage in the future. And with your help, maybe that someone could be us. And if you have any questions, I'd like to answer one.
I'd like to start by asking just to make sure I understood that you're really providing services to the two sides of the industry.
Yeah.
Like, so if I'm, and forgive my ignorance here, but so if I'm a venue,
Yeah.
and I want to book a band, how do I go about doing that? You know, if I don't, well, assuming I might know some, but assuming I don't know
Yeah.
any local bands, where would I start today? I think I understand what you're saying is you'll basically provide that service for them.
So how do they do it now?
How do you do it today
Beehive?
without that? Yeah.
Well, there's a couple of ways. One is that the venue will already know the band they want, and they'll go out and find that band.
Right.
But for other slots, they often have vacant slots, or support slots for bigger bands where they have to find somebody. So what they do now is they have to sit and wait and get applications from bands, or else they can go out and look at their MySpace page and their there's some other pages, the Breaking Tunes page they could look at, but.
So you're saying there's quite a bit of effort involved on the part of the gig organizer, if you like,
Yeah.
to
Yeah,
find
absolutely.
the bands or to find.
I think that the real problem for venues and bigger venues, smaller venues, yeah, definitely that's their problem. But bigger venues and festivals, like, they have so many applications that they're bombarded. You know, we've talked to Dave Allen and other people in the industry in Dublin who run some of the bigger venues, and they say that the real hassle is that they get too much information being thrown at them from bands that are, substandard to actually the bands that really can perform in their venues. So it's really a hassle for them. But it's on the behalf of the musician, it's down to lack of knowledge. It's down to lack of. They just assume, right, this is where everyone plays, this is where I've heard of, this is where I should be playing. But really the whole idea of the site is to teach people that, no, you should start, in a smaller venue. Once you've that done, maybe you start moving on once you start building a crowd. So it's like walking through the whole industry, both online and offline. It's kind of a online-offline relationship.
Okay, so it's a very broad service, and it's through the whole, you want to say, band's development.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Like, we will be given, like, there'll be tutors, so if, right from the get-go, so if you're looking for a tutor, there'll be a tutor on site right till they're playing the bigger festivals and venues.
And your principle, I was quite struck by, because your principle that you only pay if you get a booking. So I'm a band starting out, and I'm up there, nobody particularly wants to hire me, so it doesn't cost me. So there's a cost you to register. Do you have kind of like a registration fee, or?
No, we don't feel that would work in Ireland.
All right.
It's not common practice for bands to pay to make every submission in Ireland. It is in some other countries in the States. That's standard practice, that you pay to make a submission.
Right.
But in Ireland it's not, so we didn't believe that could work here.
Okay.
But we feel that if we aim to charge €4 per booking if it's a paid gig. So that's going to be less than 1% of most bookings, So we think it's a fair ask, and we think bands would go for it definitely.
Okay. And would you vary that depending on, big bands, small bands?
Well, in the future we've thought about, because we're trying to focus on the mid-range, which is the most venues, in Ireland at present, like the most bands and the most venues. So we're thinking in the future we can extend our services once we get to know them ourselves better. Like, it's very malleable, so we can extend our service to support the bigger bands, playing the really big shows, and once we get to know it and understand that ourselves. So that's kind of how we've approached that. But we haven't met figures for that, I think, at present, because we don't know it well enough.
And so that's my last question. how do you plan to get known? You know, how do you plan to get out there and get, like, you're very much depending on people coming to you, either venues,